Now, third is the mind. Just a few little pointers on the mind. Here's number one. It needs to be nourished. Needs to be fed. There's an Old Testament phrase that says humans cannot live just on bread alone or food alone. Dogs can, a crocodile can, a spider can. Humans cannot exist just on food. Here's what it says. Humans also need words. Words nourish the mind. Words give life. Words create insight. Because there's more than one way to see. If we see with our eyes, we call that sight. But there's another way to see called insight. That's why we come, gather for a couple of days, attend the classes, go to the training, read the books, do all the stuff, is to develop more insight. Letting our mind be nourished to think, ponder, and wonder, and conceive ideas, projects, purpose, give structure to something for the future, whether it's better health or better career, better future. Next, the mind needs to be exercised. We talked a bit about that earlier. Exercised by debate. Exercised by reading both sides of the debate, both sides of the question. America had the big debate. Well, all who believed in capitalism had the big debate with communism for about 80 years. The communists said, capital belongs to the state, not the people. And we debated them and said, no, capital belongs to the people, not the state. That was known as the Great Debate. Communism said, no, people are too dumb and stupid to know what to do with capital. So you have to take capital away from all the dumb, stupid people and give it to the all-wise, all-knowing state. And let the state create and run everything and let the people show up for their work assignment. That was their side of the debate. And when they used that philosophy, of course, they devastated everything they touched. I've lectured now in East Germany. They say it's going to take $1 trillion to clean up East Germany. They've spent $500 billion so far. They got $500 billion yet to go. The devastation of both lives and treasure that was left by such a diabolical philosophy that capital belongs in the hands of the state, not the people. We said, no, capital belongs in the hands of the people. That's where the creative energy is, to take goods and services to the marketplace, build a dynamic society second to none, become the envy of the world. The safety of capital is capital in the hands of the many, not the few. It's just like power. Capital is like power. Power tends to corrupt. Ultimate power tends to corrupt ultimately, absolutely. Stalin and Hitler had absolute power, allowed for no debate. Of course, power tends to corrupt early. When a 3-year-old child hits another 3-year-old over the head because he's a little bigger and a little stronger, power now has begun the corrupting process. And unless this 3-year-old is restrained, he'll do it again. Unless he's further restrained, he'll probably enjoy it. So now he must be restrained and taught by whatever method to drive that dark side of his nature into a small corner. Because power starting to corrupt a small child is the beginning of an uncivilized person. And all we have to have is enough uncivilized people, and we have an uncivilized society. Fortunately for us in our lifetime and the places we live and where we've come from, we live in what we call a civilized society. And here's why. Most have chosen to do the right thing. Most citizens of the countries we represent have chosen to be civilized. But civilization is something we must continually work at. Because in the opposites in conflict not only goes on outside of us, it goes on inside of us. The corrupting influence of power, the misuse of capital. So the great debate is on, and this is part of mental exercise, the great debate. Major life issues, major political issues. Don't leave yourself out of the great debate. One, the mind needs to be nourished by ideas. Second, it needs to be refined and stimulated and exercised by debate. We need both sides of the human drama represented. The reason why the Bible is such a classic book in studying all kinds of stories is because the Bible is full of stories on both sides, the evil side and the good side. The Bible said, Old Testament said, this king came to power and he was a good king, and he ruled for 18 years. And then it says the next king came to power and he was a bad king, and he put up idols. He became the bad king. So it reads good king, bad king, showing both sides of the human spectrum and drama. Some stories that we read in the Bible of people to admire, others are people to despise. In your library, you need a book on Gandhi and you need a book on Hitler. One book to show you how noble someone's aspirations can be, and the other book to show you how despicable and how evil someone's goals can be. Both sides we study, good and evil, one we love and one we hate. We study illness, we study health. Someone says, well, you can't study the negative things. You have to study the negative things. You have to give voice to and mind to and time to both sides of the issue so that you can strengthen your side of the argument. In raising our kids, we have to pose both sides. What's the dangerous side and the safe side? In one of the seminars that I'm sure some of you have attended, I talk about philosophy that makes the difference. Philosophy does two things, each person's personal philosophy. So jot this down. Our personal philosophy does two things. One, helps us to see the dangers on one side so we can avoid or minimize those. Then our personal philosophy needs to be developed so we can see the opportunities on the other side so we can maximize those. And for the balance of your life, that's going to be the twin challenge in developing ideas and philosophy and strengthening all of it so that you can avoid the dangers and maximize the opportunities. Because the dangers never go away. The dangers to our ship of state called the country. The danger to the enterprise. The danger to the corporation. Dangers always lurk, both inside and out. Dangers lurk on the inside of our own mind. When I was a kid, they used to have those little cartoons of a little boy with a gremlin on one side and a little angel on the other side. And the little devil, a little gremlin, said, go ahead and do it, it's okay. Little angel said, no, no, no. So when kids are young, they've got this debate to engage in. Should I or shouldn't I? One voice says, go ahead, and the other one says, no, no. So we hope as the years pass and as the classes pass, and as we go from grade 1 to grade 2 to grade 5 to grade 10, we will learn more, as Abraham said, to listen to the better angels of our nature, to appeal to our conscience, and let our conscience help, along with God and whatever else you belong in that has good influence on helping to make right decisions, avoiding the evil one, avoiding the danger, the dark side, and appeal to ourselves to engage in the positive side, the opportunity side. The battle of the mind is significant for us every day, what to think, what not to think. My mentor, Mr. Shove, said, stand guard at the door of your mind. And you decide what enters. You decide what to fill up your mind with, because it becomes the material with which you build your future. So, engaging the mind to make rational decisions about life. Beware of the thief on the street that's after your purse, but also beware of the thief in your mind that's after your promise. The thief in your mind that says, you're too short, you're too tall, you've never done it before. What makes you think you can do it now? It's not going to work for you. Someone else could find the book, you'll never find the book. If you found the book, you wouldn't read it. If you did read it, you wouldn't understand it. That's stuff that goes on in our mind. So jot down this key phrase. It's one of the best for the day. Whatever you do, don't become a victim of yourself. As you engage in this debate, what to eat, what not to eat, where to go, where not to go, what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do, make sure that you strengthen the positive side of this argument with yourself so that day by day you become healthier, day by day you become stronger, day by day you become wiser. Day by day you build a better shield and immunity. An inside immunity to ward off disease, but an outside immunity to ward off all the negative and all the trash and all the stuff that would not enhance your personal development nor your promise for the future. So this is so important in understanding the mind. Feed it. We call it food for thought. That's what a big share of this whole seminar is all about these 3 days, is providing food to think about, thoughts to think about, and then ideas to debate. And it's not necessarily what's right or what's wrong, but what's better, what's best. This is okay, but this would be better. With this, yes, you can manage, but with this, you can flourish. With this, you can exist. With this, you can live a fantastic life. So, exercising the mind. Now, to develop the mind, you need a good library. Let me give you 3 parts to your library. Number 1 is your visual library. Zig and I and others have put things on video so you can see it. We ask you to come here today and see what's going on a business day. Look how many people are interested in personal development to make those, stressful arrangements. And for some of you, I know it wasn't easy. In order to be here today to soak up ideas, let them permeate your thoughts and serve you for the future. So part of it comes by visual. Come and see. And then if it's on video, you can see it again and again and again. Key phrase, repetition is the mother of learning. Repetition is where if we hear it again, we see something we didn't see when we heard it the first time. We see something different that we didn't see the first time. Next is your listening library. Zig Ziglar's right. Turn your car into a mobile classroom. You can have a university education in a fairly short period of time just using the traveling time to listen. Key phrase is to listen to voices of value. Discriminate in your listening time. Listening to someone of reputation, someone who has good ideas, someone that's been recommended that has some value. Don't waste your time listening to things that don't count much. We need a bit of entertainment, but a whole lot of it that's being presented today we could do without. Hey, there's some things that are not worth spending the time. They create more poison than they do benefit. So be careful. If somebody says to me, these eggs are rotten, I'm not going to make an omelet and try it. I'm going to take their word for it. So feed the mind, exercise the mind, and build your library. I recommend 3 books that were recommended to me when I started my library when I was 25 years old. In those accelerated days of personal development, for me, about 7 years worth. So fantastically changed my bank account, changed my income, revolutionized my future. With the foundation my parents gave me, meeting Mr. Schoaf at age 25, I'm telling you, it's been a journey for me like no other ever since. Then I've had mentors along the way. My current mentor, Bill Bailey, who you're going to hear from later. I'm telling you, that keep my mind stimulated, that keep my interest keen, that help me to evaluate and to weigh what is good, what is okay, what is better, and what is prosperous in terms of your life. Mentors. And that first mentor I had recommended these 3 books. First was the Bible. Now, I had an advantage there because my parents made sure I was a pretty good scholar by age 19. A good book to serve you all of your life. One of the major sources of ideas, stories, poetry, history. A major source for stimulation. Next, he recommended the book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Think and grow. Good words, think and grow and rich. I went for it. Got the book. Paid less than 50 cents for it. Some of the ideas in it changed my life. Next, Schoaf recommended the book, The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clayson. Helped me become a millionaire by age 32. Totally changed my economic future. Just the ideas in a simple little book. Amazing. Then he recommended something for me to listen to by Earl Nightingale called The Greatest Secret. That was my listening library to begin with. The Greatest Secret by Earl Nightingale. I listened to it over and over again. I wore out 2 or 3 of those big old 78s. Now it's easy. From Nightingale Conant, you can get it on cassette, and you can get it on CDs. But back then, it was the big 78. So your listening library and your visual library. Next now is your reading library. And we won't go through a whole list of the best books, but here's a good book to get if you want a good list of the best books. It's called How to Read a Book. Simple. How to Read a Book by Adler. Chief editor of the Encyclopedia Britannica, Mortimer Adler. He wrote a book called 6 Great Ideas that's excellent. He wondered, are ideas tangible? Are ideas real? Or are they nothing? And we discussed earlier, they can't be nothing. They have to be something. But he wrote this book, along with another author, How to Read a Book. Now, if you master this book, you can get so much more from a book. Now, it's a kind of a tough book to get through, but it'll give you some ideas on how to take a book and get the most out of it. Take a book and get the most out of it. But in this book is also a list of what he calls are the greatest books ever written. And I've used that book, that list, as a centerpiece for my library. It's got the classics, which I missed. I only went to 1 year of college, so I missed a whole bunch of stuff. I started making up for that by collecting these best books ever written. Interestingly enough, on that list is Old and New Testament. On every scholar's list, East or West. You just can't miss those as major sources. In addition to that, there's a book called Lessons of History, written by Durant. And I offer it because it's one of the classic writings of all time. You may not agree with his premise, but you certainly have to agree that it's one of the best well-written books ever. He and his wife wrote about 11 volumes on civilization. Take a speed reading course, you can get through those. But this little book, Lessons of History, is sort of a summary of their ideas on history. It's a classic. Then a classic I think most everybody's got. It's called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, where each sentence is a seminar. And you may not agree with his premise either in certain instances. But you don't want to read just what you agree with. And not just to read the positive. Make this note. You cannot live on mental candy. Just like you can't feed your children ice cream all the time and hope that they will be healthy. So you cannot live on mental candy. Someone says, well, I just read the positive stuff. That's not enough. And the reason is because you need to know both sides of the issue. So start your library like I did, age 25. I mentioned in another seminar, haven't read everything in my library, but I feel smarter just walking in it, right? And smart enough to buy it. Now I got to be smart enough to read it all. Then I got to be smart enough to sort through and decide what's valuable. So make that the next part now. In part of personal development for the mind, you got to sort through what you read, what you see, and what you hear, and decide which of all of that is valuable for you to try and do and master. This is where being a student comes in. Not a follower, but a student. Read both books and decide. You read one book on good health and it says, do what this book says, you'll live forever. You read the next book on health and nutrition and it says, if you do what that first book says, you'll die young. So someone says to me, Mr. Rohn, which of these books should I follow? Jot this down. Neither one. Don't be a follower. Read both books and make up your own mind. Here's what's important in the final analysis. One of the best phrases for the day, I got this from my Canadian friend Harold Dyke, who gave it to me, and I've used it all these years. Here's what he said. Make sure what you finally do is the product of your own conclusion. Make sure what you finally do is the product of your own conclusion. Meaning you don't just follow, but you listen to both sides of the argument. You listen to the controversy. You try to master the points on both sides or three sides or whatever. Then you start charting your own course. It doesn't say you'll make always the right decision on what course to take or what to do. You can refine as you go. But make sure that what you do is the product of your own conclusions. Conclusions from the debate. Conclusion from what makes the best sense to you to try.